No, well, yeah, thanks everyone for another week. I think Matt, you've done a good job of summarizing who we are and what we're doing. But I mean, one thing I think we talked about on the Slack channel between Riza and us is that some people might think that they're not being useful now, but I think give it time. Everyone here is very useful because, as Riza said, we're just getting the momentum going. So the momentum has to start, and then we could actually start the development, right? I mean, we need to plant the seed, and once the seed is planted, then we could get all of the people who are already itching with their fingers and minds to get this going, because we have the framework built within our minds, I think, but we just need to get the support. That's the key. But yeah, so I think this is what helps every week. We need to get more people. I know Riza is heading the helm and trying to get as many attention to us as possible, but along with the rest of you guys. So no, thanks everyone. Yeah, I'll tell you about my journey in a minute after Matt goes through.
Riza, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm going to be brief. Calling from London. I'm here for a wedding, but as soon as we arrived, we started feeling feverish. And Afshin, what is the latest variant called?
I don't know the actual name. It's a BA.2.86 is the official scientific name, but is it Paroli?
Okay.
Paroli, something like that. No.
I think I'm a candidate. Anyway, so it took a few days, and you can tell I'm actually not that bad now. I'm recovered from it. But London is sweltering in close to 90-degree weather, and there's no air conditioning here, so it's just utterly miserable, especially if you're a bit feverish as well. Fortunately, now here, so I'm across the bridge from the Houses of Parliament at the Park Plaza Hotel, where the wedding is. The wedding's going to take place at the Houses of Parliament, so the bride and groom are staying here. So I'm giving you way more information than you want, but wouldn't it be great one day if Kwaai was actually going to the Houses of Parliament to lobby on behalf of some AI policy? So that would be fantastic. I'm going to be brief and save my voice, but this is the highlight of my week. Fridays, these are happy Fridays. Just seeing the community and the growth of the community. I want to give you some updates on what's happened during the week. I was hoping to get a whole lot more done, but I did respond to Scale 21, which is the Linux Developer Conference that would like Kwaai to submit proposals. Jordan from Scale asked if I would keynote this conference in March of next year in Pasadena. It's a big deal, and I think we could probably field about 6 different presentations, just reflecting the diversity of the interests in Kwaai. I think there's something in the area of life sciences. There's something in the area of reasoning networks. There's definitely stuff in the area of the Kwaai mission itself, and so I committed for us to have those proposals done by the end of next week. So I'd like each of you to go and have a look at that and see what you would how you could contribute, whether you've got a paper in you, whether you've got there, hold on. Somebody just texted that. What was the question? It was who? Oh, there we go. That was Jordan. Excellent.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
I'm Jordan. I'm from the DevOps Day LA at Scale. I caught your keynote at DataCon LA and thought, hey, your presentation would be a great, hopefully like a keynote at Scale. I don't have a complete, I'm on a kind of a track, but as you noticed looking at the site that the open source AI tools track would also be great for perhaps some of the members to submit presentations as well.
Indeed. Okay, so Jordan, we will take a look at that and submit proposals. I'm going to stop talking there, hand over back to Matt so he can take the agenda forward. Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks, Riza. Toby, I saw you raised your hand. You got something quick on this before we hand it back to Afshin?
Yeah, we'd love to be one of the members to participate. We've been working on a little AI coding tool. My co-founder's on the meeting finally this week. I got him. So If we have time, we can do a little demo. If not, next week perhaps. But we'd love to kind of show you. And Colin's been kind of powwowing with this, so we're kind of ad hocing already.
Awesome. That sounds great for a lightning talk here upcoming. Afshin, why don't we give it back to you for today's? Love to hear a little bit about yourself. I was trying to come up with some witty title for the agenda here, but I could not connect these dots. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you did.
Okay. Yeah, I have an interesting background, both in science and both how I got to meet Riza and everyone else. Maybe I could show some couple of slides as some visualizations. I guess it's easier, but there's going to be two of me because I'm on a computer. I don't know if Matt, you could let me share my screen on the other instance of me that doesn't have a camera.
Yeah, let me take a look at that.
But while he's doing that, so yeah, I mean, most of you know who I am now, but I had just to give you a background, I had met Riza through his brother-in-law, which is a scientist, a prominent cancer researcher, Steve Balin. And Steve Balin and I have been working on many different things related to COVID, and I'll tell you the background on that shortly too. And then that's how I met Riza, because then when Riza was at Real Networks, they had this really interesting idea of doing a face recognition mask for basically a mask app to make sure people were okay. Now I have control. Thanks. To actually be able to let's see. Hold on. While I'm trying to pick the right screen. Okay, good. Yeah. So at Real Networks, they had created a nice face mask app that we partnered with them to do. But so yeah, let me give you a little background on me, just so give you the journey that I've been on. So I'm actually got a bachelor's in physics. I grew up in Minnesota, so if anyone's from Minnesota, you're probably familiar with the temperature. I did a brief stint at 3M because 3M has a huge campus in Minnesota. And in physics, I was doing high energy physics, so really working with abstract things. So went to get a PhD in physics at Florida State, but that PhD switched to more biophysics in quotes, and meaning that I was working on biology like DNA, but I didn't care about the biology of DNA. I cared as a physicist how DNA might move through objects. And so as a physicist, you tend to do a lot of modeling. So back then, actually, as an undergrad, I learned Fortran, which probably a lot of you might know. And then a lot of you might have tried to forget quickly, right? And then I learned C, C++. But then during my graduate school, I forgot all that because we stopped programming. But I still have the basis of that. So I call myself, one of my advisors during graduate school, he had a thing on his wall: physicists are a jack of all trades. We could do electrical engineering, but not as good. Computer science, but not as good as there. So we could do almost everything, but we could understand everything. So eventually, I say detour here. I moved to Boston area, where I'm now, back in 2002, where I switched to biology, which is the dark side, we call it in physics, but it's because of the complete unreproducibility of some experiments have, or the big error bars compared to physics. And eventually I landed in a cancer systems biology lab as associate with Tufts in St. Elizabeth Hospital in Boston area, where the director of the institute was a physicist also. So we had a lot of common mind. So we worked a lot of biology, and then we also did many different projects where eventually, I became a professor at Tufts Medical Center. And then eventually had a little detour, became adjunct professor while still living in Boston at Rutgers. But then one of my friends at NASA, when he joined them, he said, "Hey, would you want to come first move to the Bay Area?" But I like the housing prices, and compared to Boston, the Bay Area is crazy housing prices. But also then I said, let's just do a remote. That was about 6.5 years ago. So we did remote with NASA through Blue Marble. So within government institutions, you either are a civil servant, which is 20% of the workforce, and then 80% of the other workforce work for these companies or these contracted out companies, what we call contractors. So initially I was with one called KBR, but then recently I switched over to Blue Marble, which is a nonprofit. And then I've been there since, but also got affiliation at Broad Institute here in the Boston area. And then COVERT, which is the COVID-19 International Research Team, is how I met Riza. And as you can imagine, when COVID first started, everything shut down. A lot of scientists like myself who, within this career path, I started learning bioinformatics, and then learning all about how to deal with omics data and big data, which a lot of you might be familiar with in the biology side. And usually the bioinformatics tools and development were started by a lot of computer scientists, physicists, and mathematicians, because those tools and algorithms are basically what drove the biology, necessary to drive the biology to analyze that data. But the biologists didn't have the tools; you guys did. And then now, I should tell you guys in a second. I don't know if Justin, I know Diego's away, but Justin Reese, he's one of my collaborators. That he's a AI and machine learning guy who's also collaborating with me in many biology projects using like knowledge graphs and other types of AI tools in biology. But in the meantime, that's how when COVID first started, a bunch of computational folks like myself wanted to help out. So there's a lot of omics data available publicly, but I didn't want to keep it small. I wanted this group to have biologists, epidemiologists, clinicians, and so on, and computer scientists. So eventually it grew to this quickly grew to 200 plus people we have. And a law firm heard from us and set us up pro bono as a nonprofit, which usually doesn't happen. But the law firm itself said, we want to be associated with something good, as opposed to people hating our names because we're lawyers, which is rare to hear. But they're still doing pro bono for us work. And since then, we've done a lot of different things. And let's see if I have. Oh, and also serving some scientific boards for other space companies. Because within NASA, obviously, I do a lot of space biology work, and I have my own grants, self-funded. Within that, working on different projects with space biology to COVID now and other things. And within the COVID group, we've published a lot of papers. That's how I met Riza, as I said, through one of the members, Steve Balin, who's a big cancer biologist at Johns Hopkins, Riza's brother-in-law. And when Riza was in Real Networks, they're developing a face mask app that maybe a lot of you are familiar with, that worked out really well. Getting people to use it was a lot harder, but there was good number of people who used it, I think. And it was trying to help the community, contain COVID at the time. But in a nutshell, that's my journey. Let's see. Let me see if I could go here. Now, how I got through my research, scientific research, I do multiple areas of work. I work on space biology work with some papers here where, a lot of the focus I've done is on mitochondrial-related impact and these other small RNA called microRNAs, which we don't have to get into, but we could talk about sometime later. It's going to be a quick lightning talk. And in the space biology world, we've released large packages of papers, and my collaborators is like another big package of papers coming out of 50 in October. And these papers include, wet lab data from astronauts, from simulated experiments that I've done, other people have done, and also includes AI ML techniques, because as you can imagine, the amount of data you get is small because it's a limited amount of astronauts, so you got limited. But so you have to use creative machine learning AI approaches to predict things that might happen later on too. Like, can you predict a countermeasure to make it safe to go to space? So that I have collaborators who are like Diego Galliano, who's in this group, but he's on vacation this week, that he's predicting, for example, small molecule drugs using a machine learning approach he created to target some of these small RNAs. That he could repurpose FDA drugs, potentially make it safe for people to go to space. Some of the grants I have, but so then COVID work, we put out a bunch of papers, and some of these papers are wet lab work. A lot of them are computational based, meaning we analyze informatics data or bioinformatics data. Some of it we are tool developing, and then some of these ones do include machine learning techniques, AI techniques that I've developed further to do the work we do, and then do a bunch of cancer work too. So that's like diverse. I do a lot of different things, and within, if you're interested who Covert is, you can go to this website here. But within these groups, let me see if I can find the notes. But yeah, that's in a nutshell who I am, what my journey is. But within these groups, I said a lot of the tools that we use, just as aside from the omics and standard algorithms to analyze data, big data. There's a lot of bioinformatics that uses machine learning tools to actually, you can imagine when you do RNA sequencing or DNA sequencing, you get a large dump of data. So how do you pull out things that are in an unbiased way that's very important for the system or driving that system in biology? I mean, one way is, people like me have in the past played around with the data and come up with just algorithms to work out ways to unbiased way to analyze it. But nowadays, for my collaborators like Justin Reese and other folks, they use knowledge graphs, for example, which I don't have to explain to you guys. Knowledge graphs would mine, millions and millions of databases and then what's been successful with my collaborators is to actually use AI in a way to pull out subtle effects that otherwise would have not been noticed if we just did our standard ways or using humans to do it. And that's in a nutshell, I think, how in biological world, the AI, like what we're talking about here as a personal assistant, would be something like that. I could see would be tremendous help. I was talking to Masu earlier in the week. How, for example, predicting drugs and making it efficient for do drug screening, an AI technique to do a drug screening on the data that's out there publicly is tremendously valuable, and people are using that. Like in the COVID world, Justin Reese could comment on this, but I don't think he's here. He's used knowledge graph and AI approaches to actually mine electronic health records, and then come up with, for example, long COVID is the big issue these days, and with long COVID, like this electronic health records that he's been able to pull out with AI, certain phenotypes and clustering of how these patients might be grouping together that could be attribute, for example, people might be more prone for long COVID versus others. Oh, I see Kai, you have a hand up. You're on mute, by the way.
Hi,
Yeah, go.
yeah, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, feel free to interrupt. Yeah, it's informative. Yeah.
For those who know me, don't know me quickly, I'm 30 years in AI. I have a PhD in AI at Sorbonne. First company acquired for 600 plus million in AI, and now I started a second AI company for life science. And I'm focusing on reasoning AI for almost 30 years and combining with machine learning. So I hear a lot of time people talk about knowledge graph, and I know a number of AI drug company combining neural networks with knowledge graph, and it doesn't work very well. The first reason is because knowledge graph is a graph database. It's designed to do queries. It's not designed to do inference or reasoning. And the second thing is when you have two approaches that are completely different, it's very difficult to combine them, to bridge them. What we have is it's called distributed reasoning AI networks or reasoning network, where each node is a mini reasoning engine itself. That can have any kind of logic. So I just want to add that, because knowledge graph is something that people feel the need because of the black box of neural networks. But for me, it's not the way to go if we want to have a much more explainable AI, not after the math, but from the beginning. That's it.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, the knowledge graphs that we use is typically the inputs is mining the database. It's targeted, so we mine the databases that we would pull out. You know, for let's say for targeting certain molecules like proteins and certain conditions like Alzheimer's, or in this case COVID, we'll focus it to that. So it pulls out information we need. But yeah, I agree. Like if there's a better approach, knowledge graphs are limited because what you said, and that's where like I think. You know, in the biological side, you guys, I think, are more experts with a lot of the AI tools that we don't have in that side. So bringing you guys at that community, I think, make it a lot larger and better, you know, robust, you know, community to actually use AI correctly. And I think that's what we could do, right? Bring in people there that would use your suggestions. But in a nutshell, that's who I am. I don't know. I think I babbled on too much.
Yeah, thank you, Afshin. Really appreciate that. Excellent, you know, comment there, Kai, as well. You know, really good to just see the community building dynamically, you know, right here on this call. You know, want to move forward to the roundtable here. With that, you know, want to open it up the floor for advisors. Mike, you've got your hand up first. Would love your thoughts on this.
Great. Yeah, thanks. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I know I've said similar things in the past, but I really believe, and I'm happy to spearhead this with some other folks that have kind of deep technical architectural understanding of AI participating, to help map out an architecture that we all can agree looks like what the AI stack should be, talks about in diagram form where our focus is, what the connectors are between things like large language models and what we aim or aspire to build, ahead of thinking about coding anything, I feel like we're missing kind of like our roadmap, right? Like what is our point of view of what the world of AI looks like that we're addressing? What are all the pieces of the different technologies in the different stack? Do we have to interoperate or provide hooks or create some other mechanism between those so that it can be a functioning, real set of tools that are addressing what needs to be addressed? And we're not just, we might be creating something open source, but we also might be creating something that's proprietary and not likely to get adopted. So I feel like that's step one, is building that architecture and that point of view technically. And yes, having a GitHub and knowing how it's going to be managed and how people can contribute, all of that is really important. But, you know, in my experience, you don't really start coding until you really, you know, it's sort of like getting in the car and driving. You kind of want to have a destination first. So anyways, I'll just kind of throw that out because I think that's an important subgroup, let's just call it that needs to go off and kind of figure out in detail those pieces, come back to the group, present it, get feedback, discussion, have it be an interactive document, and really set in place where we are heading as a group so that we can attract the right developers and know what we want them to work on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Hey, Toby, can I saw a flurry of thumbs up there. Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, so my co-founder is on here, Ian, and I think he would love, this is kind of his wheelhouse, right? So Ian, you want to pop in and say hello because this is kind of your, you know, wheelhouse, and I think you can contribute a lot here.
Hi. Yeah, I definitely, it was definitely resonating with me. And I think to your point about knowing what we want to code, I mean, what we're working on is source code generation, using LLMs to produce a bunch of source code quickly and cheaply. So one thing that we could do is at least help with, like, when we have an idea, like rapidly building something out to just start to play test. Because I think the other thing about code is even when you have the best plans, what you learn from using it the first time is usually, you know, planning is essential, but plans are useless, and no plan survives first contact with customer. Those kinds of things come to mind. So being able to do it rapidly, iterate, and get something out and see what sticks with people, we'd love to support that too, and really start to generate some stuff quickly.
And that also includes being on this architecture team, Mike. We'd love to jump in with you. We are available to serve, brother.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I saw Reza pop back on, but Reza, I would imagine like you have deep expertise in this too. Like you would want to be participating or leading it or whatever. I was only raising my hand, not because.
I agree. So let's take the point that we don't have a roadmap. I agree, we don't have a roadmap. I'm the sort of guy that navigates with a compass. So I know broadly where the direction we're heading. I don't have a map, and I don't have all the stepping stones to get where we want. I don't think I even have a destination. I've just got a broad idea that you know, we want to democratize AI. What does it mean? It means we want to make it available to more people. We want to be able to see Colin Millows, who's eminently qualified to contribute to the architecture. He'd like to volunteer there.
Right on, college.
So look, these things will come. These, you know, we're like engineers. We're itching to you know. In the old days, I'd draw out Jordan diagrams or UML. I see Ian remembers that. Okay, and just, you know, that's the stuff that is, frankly, it's easy to do. The tough part is figuring out what is our mission, and we've been struggling with that. Well, we've got a white paper. We've got the Kwaai manifesto that is undergoing some sausage making at the moment. But this, we also should maybe not cast too wide a net. And at the moment, our net is very wide. And so I gave, this is meeting number 7 weeks into a movement. And I said the first quarter is going to be about building the movement. The second quarter, so that was Q3. Q4 is going to be about defining the architecture and starting to building the working groups and taking the project forward. There might be some things that actually jumpstart what we do. I had a great conversation with Mike. Mike, I hope I'm okay to mention this. We were discussing broadly about open sourcing bodies of software, and I've had there's another caller that I also know is interested in donating or contributing a body of source code into the to start things going, and I think that might, that might actually jumpstart a whole development. Yeah, I'd say bear with me, bear with us. Let's grow the movement a bit more. And I see both Mike and Sean have raised hands. Matt, I'm going to pass back to you to arbitrate there.
Sure. Yeah, Mike was first, but he's already spoken. So Sean, some thoughts?
Hi, my name is Sean. As somebody, who's built a lot of things both at Microsoft and other places, customers are usually a good thing to drive reality, as a bunch of people have pointed out. And so one good place to start is like, what's the stuff that this community needs, right? So it's okay, given that, especially as you get bigger, just trying to make tools that make our life easier. What are the problems that we're facing as we're looking into AI work? And is there a shared set of problems there? And then can we make that better? That's not a bad place to start. It may not be the best, but I feel like that one's actionable in a very short amount of time. And that has advantages.
Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, just circling back, a great point. I do think being customer-led is the most important thing any development can have. That's a good point, Sean. One thing that I'd like to propose, maybe a little more specific, is a working group on this idea of the co-pilot or personal AI, that specific aspect to it. Because what comes to mind for me, well, first of all, it's fine to share what you did, Reza. I've talked to my lead architect, and we are prepared to refactor the code to contribute to it, to the group, so that we can partition it correctly and have it be addressable specifically for what we're trying to achieve in sort of the open source personal AI identity piece of it. So that's something we're willing to do, and he's got travels and stuff, but we probably could get started on that early in October. But what comes to mind as I'm starting to think through that, maybe I should be a little more specific. I'm concerned about LLMs, right? So just architecturally, we don't want to address the LLM. We don't want to replicate and create our own LLM, and I get it, and I don't think we should. But we need to have an architecture that either LLMs already support to keep our personal data separate from being in the general LLM knowledge base, and that needs some hooks. Now, either we're going to define a standard interface so that LLMs will adopt it, and we'll have to go evangelize it and see if they do that, or perhaps some of the LLMs already have that. And you can tell by the way I'm talking, I'm not an expert in what the LLMs do or don't have in those capabilities, but that's fundamental to the idea. If we're not going to have our own LLM, we need to have a system by which, when we hit the LLMs to find solutions for whoever's using this to their queries, that we're not creating something that's personal and safe and secure and private, but then we dump it all back into the LLM, so that doesn't really help. That's where I'm thinking, like, this working group for the architecture needs to be thinking through those stitch points and how they interact, so that we can have a perspective, so that when we do go to contribute code, or we do have additional code developed, that it's understood the boundaries by which of what we're trying to create and how it sort of interplays with the ecosystem out there. That's really what I think is a primary thing that could start some progress now in trying to define how that would work and our point of view on it. I think it's going to have a lot of spirited debate behind it, and we're probably going to need to go to some of the LLMs and start to have those discussions, and maybe some of the open source ones are the friendly places to start. But I just see there's things we could be starting with ahead of the coding that are really going to be fundamental to what we do. And in that, we will talk to customers and we will learn, you know, to Sean's point, have something more specific to bounce and to ideate with to get their feedback as well.
Great.
Yeah, awesome. Advisors, if you want to jump in, you know, please do. You know, Shad, you've got your hand up. Why don't you go ahead and pop in here?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment on what Mike said. If you've taken a look at LangChain does a really good job of it's open source and it integrates with a lot of these existing LLMs, and it provides agent functionality, and it also links into vector databases. And there's, you know, dozens of vector databases out there, but those are really good for storing your proprietary data, so that it doesn't get put into the LLM. And so, you know, we can dig much more into this and, you know, find a way to integrate that into our architecture.
Well done. Thanks, Shad. Kai?
Yes, it's come several times, you know, about we talk about the roadmap and so on, and it's totally understandable. In particular, with we are more or less a scientific community or tech community and other thinkers. So we love to have a roadmap. And as you know, human, we love to feel that we are in control. But here, it really doesn't matter, because one, we don't even know where AI is going to go. It's evolved so rapidly. We have no idea how humans are going to react to that. So we have to be agile. We have to define not a roadmap, but more like I would say a journey assistant or follower. So people don't expect us to get to a specific point, because what we are about is completely new, uncertain, and it's like, you know, a startup. Any business plan you put out there, it's exactly that will not be done. It's going to be something else. So let's not maybe fall in the trap of startup business plan of startup, even though you need it. I understand that.
Well said. Darren, why don't you wrap us up here, and then we'll transition over to some member voices and introductions.
Sure. Well, I really just have, I guess, three somewhat disconnected thoughts on everything that's just been said. Firstly, I think it'd be great if we use, for example, Slack and create a group, start getting a technical discussion going on the architecture that we've just talked about. Sounds like a pretty good starting point in my view. Secondly, what I see is AI exists in all manner of arenas. We're talking everything from, you know, cloud-based big data architecture. Obviously, with large language models, you're dealing with you know, you need a lot of compute power, a lot of resources to run that. But everything down to, you know, the smallest microcontrollers nowadays. I follow ST microelectronics quite a bit. And yeah, they're introducing AI capabilities into some pretty small form factors. So there's a, you know, certainly a what I think is going to be a complex technical element to all of this. And well, I guess at that point, yeah, would just like to open up, you know, myself as well. Happy to get involved with this. Reza, you know, this is yeah, software architecture is my area of expertise. So yeah, quite happy to get involved there. But I think also the main point that it's kind of segueing from that complex architecture is helping people adopt this technology. As a CTO, what I often find when I'm researching new technologies is I'm dealing with proprietary software. Go to websites, you need to pull back the marketing layers, kind of figure out what's actually really going on, how things work. Personally, my way of understanding a new technology is understanding the building blocks, see how they're put together, get a a map in my own brain of how a particular software solution is put together. And that's often difficult in, I mentioned just, proprietary software and then open source software. You're often, first of all, jumping straight into the weeds. You're going into forums because everybody already understands what this piece of open software does. You're talking to developers. You have to kind of build it up in layers there. So I certainly think that in order for an architecture, I think we're on the same page, at least in my view. This is about building an open architecture where we're going to have many disconnected pieces of software that all need to come together and work as a cohesive whole. I think helping people understand what that is and how it's put together in a with not too much, not an overly marketing speak, but not an overly in the weeds as well. That's definitely I think there's a sweet spot in the middle there that certainly needs some thought and some effort behind it.
Well said, Darren. Thank you. And we do have the, I'll just remind our Slack channel is set up for the Kwaai work group, AI Lab work group. If you don't have an invite, you're on this meeting, don't have an invite, please do ping me, matt@kwaai.ai, and I'll be sure that you get an invite there. Wonderful. So at this point, let's hear from some of you all. If you're out there in the audience, you'd like to introduce yourself, as well as, or comment on what you've heard today, or your passion area for Kwaai, please do raise your hand. We'll try again to get to folks in order of those that haven't spoken yet, and then further folks to introduce and converse. Please keep the conversation going in the Google chat. That's what it's there for.
Hey, Matt, can I just jump in? One quick comment.
Please, action, yep.
Yeah, thanks. One quick comment on the previous one, and then also for New Year's, is thinking about what Darren said. I think it'd be really great if we do subgroups. I mean, if that's what I did with my covert group, and what Darren you said is like, there's no reason why people can't start talking about infrastructure in a subgroup, right? So as Reese is saying, we get the momentum going. Why not form, like, people want to meet outside of this main Friday meeting, have another meeting, and have anyone interested just start coming up with plans. Anyway, that's my quick suggestion, but it's up to everyone here because we're a team.
Awesome. Colin, don't want to put you on the spot here, but nobody's raising hands. I saw that reaction there. Any thoughts on this? I know you're very interested in contributing, getting started.
No, I was just saying, I just hope that everyone's on Slack. That way that we're sure the conversation is going to continue. But I think that having the meetings outside of this is probably a good idea as well, just because, that way things can incubate in a space where it can incubate. So that was kind of a thought on what was said.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate you in there, and you've been a voice in the channel. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, please join up. Oche saw the request there. I'll make sure that you get that added, and thank you for that. Jordan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. Yes, I caught Reza. My name's Jordan Schwartz. I live in Los Angeles. I'm a systems and storage engineer, and I've been following Unix and Linux operating systems for a long time, but also I listened to a lot of technical podcasts and heard a lot of AI and ML type talks from different software developers and what have you, and now as everybody else can kind of see the impact that AI, large language models, et cetera, are going to have on society in general, kind of like the dawn of the internet way back when. And that's why Reza's keynote at DataCon really caught my attention. So I'm on a thing called the DevOps Day LA, which is a day-long track at a conference called Scale, which is the Southern California Linux Expo. It's really an open source conference. And I think it might be interesting for one thing, there is a day-long AO, and this is in March in Pasadena, California at the Pasadena Convention Center. Attendance is around 2,500, if not more. There's also an expo floor with vendors but also project people like Free Software Foundation or the different Linux distributions will be there as well. So there is a day-long kind of AI track, but I also thought it might be interesting, possibly, for Reza to do perhaps a keynote. The keynotes happen Saturday, Sunday mornings, since this is such a hot topic, and he might have this Kwaai project might really speak to the Scale community because it is an open source conference. And I think a lot of the challenges that AI or this project is going through have been dealt with by the Linux open source community for the past couple of decades. So there's at least some references, if not lessons that have already been learned that might help this project push forward. Anyway, so I don't have a lot of clout necessarily with the Scale proper, since I'm kind of in a little offshoot as far as who picks what. But I know that the keynotes haven't been picked, and so submitting a call for paper, or submitting a call for paper or call for papers for either the AI track or maybe Reza for a possible keynote. Once that gets in, I can help kind of track that and escalate to the core Scale team, which I think would be a great audience for this to be in front of, as was Reza speaking to the DataCon LA
Fantastic,
folks
Jordan.
last week.
Thanks so much.
But I'm also interested in joining the project as I guess it would be more as a potential end user. And perhaps helping with some of the organizing stuff, because I have hosted technical meetups in LA, and I'm affiliated with Scale folks, which do a little bigger regional thing. So anyway, hi everybody. But I do not have a PhD or anything like that.
Really appreciate the introduction, Jordan. Thank you as well for reaching out for the opportunity. Riza, did you want to add something there?
No, I'm just posting the link to Scale, so everyone should go and have a look at it. There's a voice here. I think Winston's got his hand up. I haven't seen Winston for ages. Would love to hear from him.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Hi, Riza.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, good. Hi, everybody. My name is Winston. Just introduce myself. I'm a PhD student at the University of Michigan. I actually heard about this from Riza over the summer when I was working with him. Couldn't join I think 6 of the previous meetings because I was transitioning to starting my school. But yeah, I think my PhD is going to be around AI for healthcare. So I'm really interested in sort of having discussion on the application of the AI systems that these groups are working on. But yeah, love to contribute if I can in the future and learn more about what everybody's up to.
Thank you, Winston. Well, wonderful. Well, we're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I have time for 1 or 2 more introductions. If anybody would like to say another word here, otherwise we can wrap up. Riza, any thoughts and words?
I'm going to save my voice, and
I think you guys
just thank everyone.
Sorry,
Thank everyone for joining. Sorry,
Ian's going to save it for you. Ian.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Go ahead, Ian.
No, I mean, I just figured I'd make a quick introduction. I wanted to let everybody else who hadn't said anything get a chance first. So I came to this through Toby. Toby introduced me to this group. I'm really excited about what you all are doing, and I want to help any way that I can. I've been around the space, I mean, the internet space since the super early days. I worked with Ted Nelson back at Autodesk in the 80s doing distributed hypertext systems. So I've seen a lot of waves of really fundamental change in technology. Like I wrote the first Java client server application, which wasn't because I was particularly clever, but just because I was at the right place at the right time. So like this is such a large revolution, and it has so much more potential to have negative impact from an ethics perspective that I think we have to go into it super, super thoughtfully. I want to help any way that I can. I'm very pragmatic. My background is from a software development perspective. I've been a serial CTO. I've been doing agile software development since very, very early, since like 2004. I've been doing lean startup kind of stuff. Eric Reese was a partner in my consultancy that we built around lean startup product development for large companies. So thinking about things from that kind of user need perspective and validating that what we're doing, like, to me, all of this stuff is about scientific method applied to product and to technology. I think there's so much to do in terms of just fitness functions, in terms of, you know, the problems that we hear all the time about AI are things like hallucinations. Well, there are tools for that. We can help that. Like, it's okay to have a hallucination if you identify it and capture it and prevent it from leaking out. So like, what, all of that kind of thinking, I think, is important to us in this space. What we're working on right now is code development, code generation tools using LLMs, and getting those so they're pragmatic and useful and fast. We can totally use those tools to help build whatever we need here. They don't replace engineers, but they do a lot of the grunt work and make it really fast to build things well. And they have very, very broad knowledge. Happy to show it. Maybe we could do a lightning talk on it or whatever. However you guys want to dive into stuff with that. But I'm just really excited to, I'm glad that this conversation is happening, because I think it has to happen. And I'm glad that it's touching industry, but also open the larger community. And so I'm mostly just want to say I'm here to help and excited for the conversation.
Thanks for your passion, Ian, and welcome. Venkata, let's go to you, and then we'll have one more opportunity. Kai, you can wrap us up here for a minute, and then we'll wrap it up, say goodbye for Friday. Venkata?
Hey, hey everyone. This is Venkata from Hyderabad, India. I think, I'm into the data space for about 30 years. I have seen this world, right, from the data warehousing all to the way to the cloud and then to the big data. The transition has been happening to the AI, the modern AI world, right? So I would be happy to collaborate and contribute, because I'm kind of, specialized in the roadmap definition and architecture. So happy to be collaborated. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Venkata, and welcome. Kai.
Yeah, just very quick. Please just don't think that AI is just about large language model or machine learning. There are 4 different major schools, from symbolic AI, multi-agent distributed AI, nature-inspired AI, and machine learning. So just, yeah.
Well, wonderful, Kai. And we're going to slip one more in. Pinar, you raised your hand, and you'll be the last today. I take that back. You're going to get 2 more in today, I think.
Okay,
go ahead, Pinar.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just have a quick comment on what we've talked about the privately control of artificial intelligence, our data, and our personalized data sets, which is definitely a concern. But as of today, we still also don't know how much of our own data is controlled on the internet without the AI, just in the digital space. So I think maybe we don't forget to combine them both together, because now all the focus went to AI. And of course, it's very important that it's personalized and privately controlled by the individuals. But I have no idea what parts of my data is collected where, in what company, in what form. So maybe we can also try to combine the 2 together and address both needs at the same time. That was just my comment.
Awesome. And what's really cool to see is that already in the Slack, there's some work groups kind of coalescing here. So, please get in there, join up, and keep these contributions coming. Abdul Rahman, you'll lead us out today.
Hello, good evening from here. I'm Abdurrahman from Nigeria. I'm very excited to be part of this community. I'm a generative AI prompt engineer, so I'm very much excited to be part of this. I'm part of a team working towards a synthetic data on chest X-ray for different diseases. So I believe the ideas I've developed from such projects will make me to contribute to this community as well, especially when it comes to digital twins. It's something that I've been looking towards or forward to, especially since my secondary days. when my teacher, my geography teacher, told me about the technology that code comes into life, which is digital training of the thing. So I'm proud and very happy to be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul Rahman, and thank you for your comments in the Slack and thoughts on synthetic data. Very interesting. Riza, why don't you wrap us up and send us off on a Friday?
Okay, well, happy Friday. This is the highlight of my week, and thanks so much for not disappointing. As we said, this quarter is about growing the movement. Next quarter, we are going to see everyone's itching to start forming those working groups, and there's no reason to wait until the quarter ends. You can be in prep for that, but I'm just excited about the enthusiasm. I'm going to be back in the US Sunday evening, and then raring to go. So thanks very much, and thanks, Matt, for emceeing another call.